This is a special report coming to you from the Skills and Technology Newsroom, high atop the towering metropolis of New York City. The following information has... Oh my God, I can't really do this for real. Anyway, here you go, Lou. Take it away.
One of the more awesome things I've always liked to do, Joe, in terms of music and orchestration was be a fake orchestrator and just write notes on the page, just like the whole art of it. But the reason I wanted to talk to you about that is I saw an iPad piece of software that has handwriting recognition on a staff, the 5 lines and the 4 spaces, and it translates your handwriting into actual notes and all the phraseology. And then you can actually plug in different instruments like a oboe, a trombone, a trumpet, whatever it is, to play those notes and orchestrate this whole little thing right on your iPad and play it. And I thought that was really amazing. And it brought me back to the early beginnings of it. Actually, you brought me back to it. And you said, hey, Lou, it's really just rooted in MIDI, MIDI, right?
Correct.
Tell me about MIDI.
Musical Instrument Digital Interface.
There you go.
And yeah, it's such a huge subject, and it has so many different positions and places that it now goes. But I was around literally at the beginning when MIDI was just a concept and it was an idea. Wow. It was back in the early days of the synth gods, the Silicon Valley, Schmitty from Sequential Circuits, and Oberheim, J.L. Cooper, and all of these things came out of the need to interface different instruments together. Just like you wouldn't even think twice about going out and buying an Apple laptop and hooking it up to an HP printer,
right?
Because they talk to each other. That's
right.
There's a specification that says that is how they do that from an engineering standpoint. So the music industry developed this standard. And I wrote a book on the subject called The MIDI Book. Again, one of my brilliant titles. Me and Steve DeFuria, who is a god, and if anybody gets a chance, you should check out Steve's stuff.
Right.
So anyway, back to MIDI. So over the years, MIDI has evolved way beyond what any of us thought in the beginning, or most of us thought in the beginning, because we thought it would be connected directly to a keyboard or a keyboard to a synthesizer. And what you were describing, Lou, was actually a project we had gotten involved in pre-MIDI, which was music printing, which in itself is a complete science and art form. Because as you know, is the deflection of the note or the spacing of the staff or all the nuances that are part of notation.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Very, very specific. And most printers couldn't and can't do that. And most musicians, not most, I'm sorry, a lot of musicians aren't as well versed in scoring and in writing.
Yeah.
But they're very talented in playing. So that became a thing. How do you play this and then print it out? So what you're seeing, and it's amazing to me that it's on an iPad now. And one of the things you said was, and after you write it, you plug in your oboe or your trumpet, but you actually don't plug in an oboe or a trumpet.
Correct.
You plug in a synthesizer, which plays the trumpet sound according to what you wrote on that staff of that iPad.
Right.
So, and let's just say you're an orchestra, a Broadway orchestrator. You take your original composition and now you have to write it out for every instrument in the orchestra, because they all obviously play different parts, and the way their notes associate is different for each instrument. That's a big skill. That's a very, very high talented skill. But today you don't necessarily have to have, because of the electronics and because of MIDI, you can play the part. I'm going to play trumpet here. And you play it, and this records it, and then this prints it for you in specific notation for all the horn section. And it also captures the MIDI notes so then it can talk to a synthesizer and the synthesizer can play whatever parts you want it to be. So assume a synth is like another instrument or multiple instruments, but then you can blend that in with a bunch of acoustical instruments. All of this is done via MIDI. And I know I'm talking really fast because it's such a huge subject.
Yeah.
And I have a limited amount of time. One of the other things that MIDI is now used for, it interfaces with lighting. It interfaces with every performance. So all these devices now that are attached to a musical performance can now be triggered via MIDI. So your keyboard player can actually cue lights. DJs, big DJ shows, can do a lot of their cueing from their stage. There's still a lighting director, and there's still lighting boards, and there's still cue sheets and all of that. But what I'm saying is you can do all that. So scale that down, and you can't afford to have that grand lighting system, and and you're doing it yourself. You're playing a small gig. You can do all your lighting cues from your stage. Next time you're at a wedding, check out, a wedding that has lighting grids, which most of them do, fair-sized weddings now. You'll notice there's a guy sitting there with an iPad. A lot of times they'll pre-walk the stage, they'll walk the floor before and just check all the lights on an iPad, and then they'll use that cue, or they just build that cue into the sequence of the songs, the set list as it's being played down. So it's all pretty cool.
That's fantastic. You know what's really funny, because my mind started wandering as you were talking about the different uses. I thought of the home use, literally, of MIDI controlling lights and music was an example of the great Christmas light fight. They have these, they have the houses light up and the music's going. That's MIDI, right?
It could be, but it's also could be anything. Could be Bluetooth, could be some, another Japanese, Chinese interface that you can buy for your lighting, which is where all Christmas lights come from. But MIDI is just that. They're known as protocols. And as a designer, I want my device to be able to talk to other devices, and you conform to the protocol, the MIDI protocol, and then it puts out the data packages that then do something on the other end.
Well, that's awesome, buddy. And I know that I think there's actually 2 articles on ferrocity.com in the blog section on synthesizers. So if you've got your appetite whet about finding out some more, we invite you to check it out. Joe, thanks a lot, buddy. Glad you were around early MIDI and brought it into today's times.
You got it. Talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to today's show. We've got some really exciting online courses coming up on ferrocity.com. See for yourself the exclusive details at ferrocity.com, and make sure you get on board for early notification of class openings, enrollment opportunities, and founding member benefits. Details at ferrocity.com.